A factory produces 12,000 light bulbs per month. A quality team inspects 400 bulbs and finds 8 defective. Based on this sample, how many bulbs in a full batch are likely defective? So now somebody could say, we can set up a proportion since what? Since 400 bulbs are selected out of the entire pool. So we can say 8 defective bulbs that found out of 400 selected bulbs, right? Out of 400 selected bulbs will be identical to, now, how many defective bulbs are in the entire pool? We don't know. We can call it Y over what? 12,000 bulbs, right? Now, Y now is going to be equal to what? 8 defective bulbs times 12,000. All this divided by 400 bulbs. So this is going to be equal to, if you cancel that out, so you're going to have 240 effective bulbs out of 12,000 bulbs, right? Some people might still say we're dealing with the entire pool of 12,000 bulbs, right? Let's just set up a proportion. Now we know that bulbs need to cancel each other, so bulbs need to be at the denominator, so that we have 400 bulbs here, and we have what? 8 defective bulbs up here, so that in the end bulbs are going to cancel out and we're going to be left with what? Defective bulbs. So if we do that multiplication, you're going to have what? 240 defective bulbs, and the answer is C. A school has 2,500 students. A survey of 100 students shows that 20 prefer online classes. Based on the survey, how many students in the school likely prefer online classes? Now, we have an entire pool of 2,500 students. Now, we can set up a fraction to multiply that to say we need students to be at the denominator, and those who prefer online classes are the numerator. So we have what? 100 students, and out of that 100 students, 20 prefer online classes. Now let's see what happens. If you do that multiplication, we're gonna have 2,500 times 20 over 100. So it's gonna be online students. So the answer here is gonna be 500 students prefer online classes, right? Somebody might say we have a proportion of 20 students out of what? Out of 100 students, right? So 20 online students out of 100 students. So now we don't yet know how many students prefer online classes out of the entire pool of 2,500 students. So we can just say X all over what? 2,500 students. And X is going to be what? 20 times 2,500 divided by 100, which is still 500 online students. So yeah, the answer is going to be B. Now let's look at question. Let's look at this question. A gardener wants to cover a rectangular lawn with fertilizer. I don't know how to pronounce that, but each bag covers 50 square feet. The lawn is 200 feet long and 15 feet wide. How many bags are needed? So we just need to, let me illustrate that. So we have 20 and 15, and the area here is gonna be what? 15 times 20, which is equal to 300 square feet, right? So the area being equal to 300 square feet, right? We can now convert this into what? Look at this in terms of what? In terms of how many bags, right? We know that Let's set up a fraction here. We know that what? One bag covers what? 50 square feet. So one bag, 50 square feet. The square feet need to be at the bottom. So in the end, square feet are canceling out, right? So you see this cancel out with that. And we're left with 300 over 50, which is equal to 6 bags. So the answer is going to be C. Perfect. Uh, a tile installer is covering a floor. Each tile covers 2 square feet. The floor measures 12 feet by 10 feet. How many tiles are needed to cover the entire floor? So if we know the entire area, we can now look at the entire area in terms of the number of tiles, right? Now let's illustrate. So we have what? So these are gonna all be tiles. So we have 12 and 10, and the area is gonna be equal to what? 12 times 10 equal to 120 square feet, right? Now let's look at 120 square feet in terms of how many tiles we need, right? Now let's set one tile equal to 2 square feet. So tiles need to be at the numerator. One tile equal to 2 square feet. So you see that square feet are gonna cancel, and the result here is gonna be 60 tiles. So we need 60 tiles to do that job. So the answer is B. Um, a retail employee earns $15 per hour and works 40 hours a week. From her paycheck, $80 is withheld for taxes, and she pays $40 for health insurance. How much money does she take home for the week? Right? So this is just gonna be easy. Now, her gross pay is gonna be what? 40 times 15, right? So 40 times 15 is gonna give us $600, right? Now, let's look at her net pay, which is the take home pay, right? It's gonna be 600 minus the deductions, right? So we have $80 and $40. So that is gonna be 600 minus 120, which is equal to $480, right? So that is A. That is the answer. So she's gonna take home $480. All right, let's look at this one. A nursing assistant earns $18 per hour, right? In 1 week, he works 3 hour shifts and 11 hour shift, 3 8 hour shifts and one 11 hour shift. He his paycheck includes $100 for taxes and $90 for insurance deductions. What is his take home pay? So let's look at again total hours, right? Hours worked. It's gonna be equal to what? 3 times 8 plus 11, right? So this is gonna be 35 hours. Gross pay is gonna be equal to what? 35 times what? Times $18 per hour. So which is gonna give us what? I think that's gonna $630. That's the gross pay. So the net pay, which is the take home pay, is gonna be 630 minus what? Minus the deductions, which is $100 plus 90. So 630 minus 190. So that is gonna be $440. So the answer is gonna be D. Perfect. Worded problems make up to about 75% of the ATI TEAS exam, so it's very important that you get familiar with them. Liam can assemble 5 devices per hour. When distracted, he makes 3 per hour. Mia makes 6 devices per hour. They work for 4 hours. Liam is distracted for 2 hours. How many more does Mia makes? How many more does Mia make? So very important. The first thing we're looking for the difference, right? Now we need to address this by the total number of hours here is what? It's 4 hours. Now Liam, so let's look at Liam. Liam works 2 normal hours, right? 2 normal. So this will be 5 devices per hour. So that will be 2 times 5 equal to 10 devices, right? And he was distracted for 2 hours. So distracted. So this is gonna be, so when he's distracted, he works at a rate of 3 devices per hour. So that's gonna be 2 times 3 equal to 6 devices. Liam makes a total of 16 devices, right? Now, let's look at Mia, right? Mia works at a rate of what? 6 devices per hour, right? She wasn't distracted. It was just normal hours. So it's just gonna be uh 4 times 6, which is equal to 24 devices Mia make. So let's look at the difference. The difference is gonna be 24 minus 16, which is equal to 8 devices, right? So the answer is gonna be B. So Mia made 8 more devices than Lamb. Let's look at question 2. It's almost similar. Noah solves 8 problems per hour. When tired, he solves 5 per hour. Eva solves 7 per hour. They work for 3 hours. Noah is tired for 1 hour. How many more does Eva solve? So the total number of hours we're dealing with is 3 hours, right? Now let's address Noah. Noah, normal hours. So normal, so normal. So normal will be 2 because he was tired for 1 hour. So the normal would be 2 times the rate at which he worked normally is gonna be 8. So this is gonna be 16 problems that he solved, right? 16 problems solved. Now, tired. When tired, he was tired for 1 hour and at a rate of what? At a rate of 5 problems per hour, per tired hours. So this is gonna be what? Uh 5 problems solved, right? 5 problems solved. So Liam solved a total of what? That's gonna be 21 problems solved totally, right? Ava just solved. Ava wasn't tired. It was just normal. So she she her rate was 7 problems per hour. So we're gonna do uh 3 times 7, which is equal to 21 problems solved. So therefore means that the difference is gonna be 21 minus 21, which is 0 problems. So they solve the same problems. They solve the same number of problems, so the difference is 0. So yeah, that is the answer. Now let's look at this question. A room has 4 walls, right? So important. The important detail there, 4 walls, right? Now let's look at it. Each wall is 9 feet high, right? 9 feet high. So they have the same height. 2 walls are 12 feet wide. 2 walls are what? 14 feet wide. 1 gallon covers 100 square feet. How many gallons are needed? Right? So now let's look at it. So we need to, they have the same height, right? So we can try to picture that. So we need to look for the area, the surface area, right? We need to look for the surface area. So now the two walls, two walls was what? Was 12 feet wide, right? So, and this area is gonna be what? 12 times 2 times what? Times the height, which is 9, right? 12 times 2 times 9. That is gonna give us 216, right? Square feet. Now, the other two walls were 14 feet wide. So that is gonna be 14 times 2 times 9 equal to, so that is gonna be equal to 252 square feet, right? 252 square feet. Now, the total area is gonna be 252 plus 216. So it's gonna be 468 square feet. Now, if 1 gallon covers what? 1 gallon covers 100 square feet. So it means that 468 square feet is gonna be, so we can set that. So gallon is gonna be up here. So we have got 1 gallon up there, and we have what down here? 100 square feet down here. So this is gonna be, so this one strike that. So we are gonna be left with 4.68 gallons, right? So it's approximately, so if we round it up, so we're gonna have, because you see the answers are whole numbers. If you round that up, it's gonna be 5 gallons, right? 5 gallons. So the answer is gonna be B, right? Let's look at question 4. 3 walls measures 10 feet by 15 feet. 1 gallon covers 120 square feet. How many gallons are needed? Perhaps to paint the wall, right? Now, let's calculate the area of those 3 walls. So area is gonna be 3 times 10 times 15, right? So this is gonna be 450, 450 square feet, right? So that is gonna be the surface area of that. Now let's look at let's convert this to the number of gallons, right? So 450 square feet. So we have to set, so there's gonna be 1 gallon up there, and because our answer needs to be in gallons, then there's gonna be 120 square feet down there, so that this cancel that, and we are gonna be left with what? 450 divided by 120. So this is gonna give us 3.75. So that's gonna be 3.75 gallons. So approximately 4 gallons, right? So the answer here is gonna be B. Question 5. Earns $18 per hour, works 40 hours weekly, deductions are $210. What is the take home pay? So this should be very easy. In fact, the easiest question in the universe. So, uh, so the number of hours worked, right? Hours worked equal to 40. Hourly rate equal to 18. Deductions 210. Take home pay will be what? 40 times 18 minus 210. So this is gonna be what? 40 times 18 minus 210 is gonna give us 510, right? That's gonna give us $510. So the answer is gonna be A as the take home pay. Now let's look at question 6. Earns $20 per hour, works 36-hour weekly. Deductions are $260. What is the net pay, right? So, worked what 36-hour, rate $20 per hour, right? Deductions $260. Net pay gonna be equal to 360 times 20 minus $260. 36 times 20 minus 260. So that's gonna be $460. Right? So the answer there is gonna be B, $460. 6 students, 60 students total, 35 study biology. The ratio of chemistry to the total, right? The ratio of chemistry to the total. So now we need to know the number of students that study chemistry, right? Chemistry students will be equal to 60 minus 35, which is equal to 25 students. Now, the ratio is going to be what? The chemistry students all over the total number of students. So, which is going to be equal to 25 over 60, which is equal to 5 all over 12, right? 5 over 12. So the answer is going to be A, right? Easy peasy. 80 students total. 80 students total. 50 take math. Ratio of science to total students. So they're telling me that math students aren't science students. This question is misleading, right? If you see this question, put a flag on it on the ATI TEAS. Students are allowed to flag some questions, right? Because this question, math, science is a universal set, and math is a subset of that universal set, right? Math is just a subset of science. So you cannot say this question, they want you to say science. they want you to say ratio 30 over 80, which is equal to 3 over 8, and you say the answer is A. This question doesn't make sense. They could say ratio of art to total students, right? I would rather change this to art, right? Because science, even those that do art, do I would change this entirely to maybe philosophy, something like that. Not entirely, because our students still do math, so the question doesn't make sense. It needs to make sense. So, and also, so this is gonna be maybe philosophy, all right? Something like that. You get the point. So when you see a question like this, flag. A charity organization collected donations for 4 community programs after a major storm. The money was distributed as follows: emergency housing, $420,000; road repairs, $180,000; food supplies, $250,000; medical services, $150,000. What percentage of the total donation was used for road repairs? You see that since we're having a whole that is being split into parts, so we can use the best way to, to represent this data is using a pie chart, because we're dealing with a whole being split into part. So the whole is gonna be the donations, right? So we have the donations. The donations is being split into various parts. So you can use a pie chart to represent uh, that information, right? Now, with that being said, so we are looking for what? The percentage of road repairs, right? So let's look for the total donation. Total donations is gonna be equal to, so permit me to use K here. 420K plus 180K plus K is 1,000 plus 250K plus 150K. So you see that this is gonna add up to 1 million, right? $1 million. So the percentage of road repairs is just gonna be equal to what? What amount? What donation was put into road repairs? How much was put into road repairs? It was 180,000 divided by what? 1 million times 100%. So you see that calculating this right, it will give you 18%, right? And the answer is D. Perfect. Arrange the following fractions from the least to the greatest. When I look at these denominators, I see that we only have the prime numbers that we have here are 2, 3, right? And what is the highest power this prime number can take? This prime number can take in the denominator. So we only have 6, 3. So 3 can only take to the power 1. But 2 can take 8, which is to the power 3. So the LCM here is gonna be 8, which is 2 to the power 3 times 3 equal to 24. So all we're gonna do is what? Convert the denominators of this fraction to 24, so that the denominators are the same, right? We should make the denominators the same. So 5 over 6 will become what? We can multiply top and bottom by 4 to compare the denominator to 24. So we're going to have 20 over 24, right? Now, look at 3 over 4. We can multiply by 6, top and bottom by 6. So we have 18 over 24. We have 7 over 8. We multiply top and bottom by 3. So we will have 21 over 24. Then we have 2 over 3. We multiply top and bottom by 8. We have 16. All this divided by 24. So in this case, you're just going to look at the numerators and see which one is the greatest and which one is the least. So you see that we are going from 16 to 18. So the numbers are going to be like this: 2 over 3 to 3 over 4 to, after 16 we have 20, which is 5 over 6. Then after 20 we have 21, which is going to be 7 over 8. So the answer is going to be A. You can definitely solve this in so many ways, right? Some people would divide it into, we convert the fractions into decimals and figure that out. But that is the way I say it without using the calculator. Simplify the following expression. So we have this. So we're gonna use the order of operation, which is PED, right? So parenthesis, exponent, division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, right? So we are gonna first of all expand this, right? We deal with the bracket. So this, the, what is in here is 4 plus 3 times 2. So in that bracket, we have addition and multiplication. So we are gonna, in this bracket, still apply the order of operation by multiplying this before adding. So it's gonna be 4 plus 6, right? So this is gonna be 18. Now 4 plus 6 is gonna give a minus 10 plus 5. So 18 minus 10 is 8 plus 5. So this is gonna be 13. Perfect. The answer is B. A scientist records the number of hours students spend studying and their corresponding test scores. Which type of association is shown? So A, we have linear positive, linear negative, quadratic, no association, right? So when you look at this graph, you see that uh the dot, it is scattered, right? It is evenly scattered with no clear pattern, right? There is no, it is not a curve. It doesn't, this association doesn't shows, if you want to connect this dot, it doesn't represent a curve. It doesn't represent a positive linear association. It doesn't represent a negative linear association. So it is not a curve, either upward or downward curve. It is not a positive association, a positive linear association. It is not a negative linear association, right? So in this case, we will say there is no association. Yeah, there is no association between test scores and hours studied. But in real life, according to this, this should be a special group of students that don't have no correlation, any correlation between the test scores and the hours studied. Definitely, there is a strong correlation between these two. But according to this specific representation, the answer is D, right? Remember, linear positive like that, linear negative like that, quadratic or something like that, right? Yep, concave upward or downward. Perfect. Okay. A researcher creates a graph showing the number of customers visiting different type of stores. Which of the following represents the independent variable? So we have the number of customers, grocery, store type, electronics. So you can see the graph here, right? On the y coordinate, we have the number of customers. On the x coordinate, we have the store type. Now, the only thing you need to know is that we have the set of input and we have output, right? All input, all input are independent variables. All input are independent variable. Therefore, means whenever you want to look for independent variable, look at the x-axis, right? Because uh the output depend on the input. So output is always a dependent variable, and the input doesn't depend on anything. How many customers are in the grocery store? You have to first of all go to the grocery store before you determine the number of customers, right? Therefore means that the number of customers depend on the grocery store, right? So the number of customers depend on the store type. Therefore means that what? The independent variable is the store type, right? And the number of customers is the dependent variable, right? A technical training program receives 120 applicants each year. Historically, two-thirds of applicants enroll in the program, and only one-fourth, only a quarter of enrolled students complete the certification. How many applicants are expected to complete the certification? So, first of all, we know that these are the number of applicants, 120, and two-thirds of those applicants become enrolled students. And out of those enrolled students, only a quarter complete the certification. Therefore means let's look for enrolled students. So enrolled students will be equal to two-thirds of 120, right? Of 120. So this will give us uh 80, right? So that will give us 80 students. 80 enrolled students. So out of this 80, how many will complete certification? So the number of students that will complete the certification is gonna be equal to what? It's gonna be equal to a quarter of 80, right? A quarter of 80, which is just gonna be equal to 20 students. So the answer is gonna be A, right? So 20 students are gonna complete that certification program. Probably probably a very difficult program, if you ask me. Do this and let me know the answer. A city survey found that 12% of residents regularly use public transportation. If the city has 58,400 residents, approximately how many residents regularly use public transportation? If you read this clearly, you will notice that they said 12% of the residents use public transportation. So, how many residents are in the city? 58,400. So, therefore, means that 12% of these 58,400 residents use public transportation. So, the number of residents using public transportation is going to be equal to what? 12%, which is 12 over 100, times 58,400. So this is going to be 0.12 times 58,400. So this is equal to 7,008. And if you look at this option, it is there is no 7,008. There is no option here 7,008. So, but they say an approximate solution. They were looking for an approximate value. So if we round this to the nearest thousand, we're gonna have 7,000, right? In fact, the closest value to what we have here is B, right? You see that A is way off, C is way off, um, D is way off. So the best choice there is approximately B. A delivery driver travels 240 miles at an average speed of 60 miles per hour, right? After taking a 20-minute break, the driver travels another 180 miles at an average speed of 75 miles per hour, right? So, approximately how many hours have passed since the trip began? So, they're looking for what? They're looking for the total number of hours. So, we have 240 miles, right? Let me represent it by m, right? So now, so if we want to set this up, so you know that we are looking for hours, so the hour need to be at the numerator. Now, how many miles is 1 hour? So they said 60 miles, right? So you see now that these miles are gonna cancel out, and we will left with hours, right? So this answer is gonna be 4 hours. So the first trip was 4 hours. Now again, they get hit a break, took a break, and that break was what? 20 minutes, right? 20 minutes. So 1 hour is how many minutes? It's 60 minutes, right? So this is gonna be a total of how many hours? It's gonna be a total of 20 all over 60, which is gonna give us 0.333 plus hour, right? Now, again, he traveled another 180 miles. So the average speed here was 1 hour, approximately equal to 75 miles. So this is gonna give us what? 180 divided by 75, which is equal to 2.4 hour, right? So the total hours here is gonna be 4 plus 0.33 plus 2.4, right? Let's calculate that. So this is gonna give us what? It's gonna give us 6.73, right? So 6.73, which is B, right? The answer there is B, 6.73. Perfect. Using the table below, which equation describes the relationship between x and y? So we have the values of x here, which are the set of inputs, and the values of y here are the set of outputs. So let's look at what is happening here. We have 2, 10, 3, 15, 4, 20, 5, 25. So you can notice that all these are multiples of 5, right? So it means, look at it, we have 2 times 5, 3 times 5, we have here 4 times 5, and then we have here what? 5 times 5. So if this is x and this is y, so it means that y, this is y here, right? So y is just equal to what? 5 times, that is 5 times x, right? Excuse me for writing that. So which is just equal to 5 times x. So y is 5 times x, which is b, right? So the answer there is 5 times x. So it means that when x is equal to 6, y is going to be 30. When x is equal to 7, y is going to be 35, and so on, right? So the answer is going to be B. Complete the following expression. 4 plus, 3 times 5 minus 6 divided by 2. I remember my last video, I saw a question like this, right? This is the correct order, right? Like people say is the correct order. And I used instead this order, right? So I just want to remind uh, everybody that multiplication and division always go together, and all these are just a way of remembering this thing. These are just memory aids. If you put D before M or M before D, the answers are just gonna be the same. Let me prove it. Let's solve them in those two ways, right? Let's use the first one, which the thing everybody think is the right order. So the first format, we dealing with parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, right? So we have to first of all do what? Multiply here. So if we multiply, this is gonna give us 15, right? So and then later we divide, this is gonna give us 3, 4. So subtraction and addition are all go together. So this is gonna be 16, right? The answer there is gonna be 16. All right, let's use the order method. So we have 4 plus 3, 5. So let's divide first. So you divide this one, you have 3. And then later you multiply, you have 15. You see? So the answer is still 16. So as long as you are multiplication and division all goes together, right? All go together. And these are just memory aids. These are just memory aids. If you know what you are doing, you're always gonna get the answer correct. The answer here is gonna be C. But my recommendation is use this one. That one is popular. I grew up using this. I grew up using both mass. I use that one, which is bracket of division, multiplication, addition, subtraction, and it worked for me. And many people don't know that one. All right. Okay. A water tank has a radius of 2 inches and a height of 4 inches. Which of the following best represents the volume of the tank? Right? So the volume of the tank, this is going to be the volume of a cylinder, right? So this is going to be the volume of a cylinder. So the volume here is going to be equal to pi radio square h, right? Pi radio square h. So this is going to be equal to, I know that in ATI TEAS they will always give the value of pi, and for me, for the value of pi is always, the value of pi is 3.141592654, like that. I have that in my memory ever since I knew about this. So now let us use 3.1415. So this is gonna be equal to 3.1415, right? The radius is 2 inches, so that's 2 squared, and the height is 4 inches. So this is gonna be equal to, let's calculate that. So 2 squared is gonna be 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So we have 16 times 3.1415. So the answer is gonna be 50.264. So this is approximately, if we want to do it to, like, we have 3 significant figures here. So let's do it to 3 significant figures. It's gonna give us 50.3 to 3 significant figures, square inch. So the answer, cubic inch, I mean, it's a volume, it's volume, cubic inch. So the answer is gonna be B, right? Perfect. A school survey included 200 students. Of those 200 students, 65% were girls. So if 65% were girls, it means that boys were what? 100 minus 65, which is equal to 35%. So boys were 35% before I even continue reading what is down. Among those among those boys, 20% participated in robotics club, right? 20% participated in robotics club. How many boys did not participate in robotics club? So let us look for the number of boys. So the number of boys, generally, total number of boys is gonna be 35 over 100 times the total number of students, which is 200. So with 0.35 times 200, so of course 70. So those are the total number of boys in class. So 20% of these, so number of robotics boys is gonna be what? 20%, which is 20 times 70 of these people, right? Which is equal to 14 students, right? Your calculator is gonna give you 14 students. So 14 students were in robotics club, right? Robotics club. So how many students were not in robotics club? Not in robotics. It's gonna be equal to what? 70 total boys minus 14, which is equal to 56. And the answer is A, right? The answer is A. After getting a promotion, Marcus bought a laptop for $549.99, a backpack for $42.50, and a wireless mouse for $27.51. What was the total amount Marcus spent? This is those kind of questions they just want to give you just to, wind down time. So you just gotta use your calculator and, just sum it all the way up. So total amount is gonna be equal to, so we have 549.99. So all this is plus, right? 42.50. We have also 27.51. All right. So you just gotta sum these up. So you can see that these, and this is gonna be $2, right? All of this is gonna give us $2. All right. 2 plus 9 is 11. Plus 2 is 13. 20, right? So 0 over here. 6, 10, 12, right? Then we have 620, right? So the answer there is gonna be 620. We didn't need a calculator, guys. The answer there is gonna be C. A community center surveyed members about their favorite exercise. So you have exercise over there. Walking, you have 18 members. Running, 10 members. Swimming, 6 members. Cycling, 6 members. Approximately what percentage of members prefer swimming or cycling? So swimming or cycling. So this is gonna give us what? So O in mathematics is addition, so it's gonna be 6 plus 6, which is gonna be 12 members prefer swimming or cycling. And the percentage, let's look for the total members. Let me just sum it over here. So this is gonna be 28, is gonna be 40, right? The sum is gonna be 40, so the total is equal to 40 members. So that percentage is generally gonna be equal to what? 12 all over 40. times 100%, right? Let's see what that gives us. 12 all over 40 times 100. So that's going to give us 30%. And the answer is going to be C, right? Perfect. A pet shelter currently houses 15 dogs, 5 rabbits. What is the ratio of dogs to rabbit, right? Remember, ratios are written in their most simplest form. So we're just gonna go ahead and put, dogs to rabbit. So how many dogs are there? 15 is to 5 rabbits. So we can divide this by 5. So when we divide it by 5, um, so we're gonna have 3, 1. So this is gonna be, so the simplest ratio here is 3 is to 1. And the answer there is gonna be B, right? So these questions are just those simplest questions in the ATI TEAS exam. So these are just those ones that you don't need to even solve them. Most of you won't solve these questions. You just go ahead and take the answers. I know how smart you are. So go ahead and take the answers without even having to solve them, right? Yeah. During week 1, a warehouse shipped 8 pallets. During week 2, it shipped 3 times as many pallets as week 1. During week 3, it shipped 5 more pallets than week 2. Which expression represents the number of pallets shipped during week 3? So week 1, W1 is just equal to 8 pallets, right? What about week 2? 3 times as many, right? So that's going to be 3 times 8. What about week 3? Week 3, they say what? They said 5 more. So 5 more is addition. So it's going to be 3 times 8 plus 5, right? So that expression is going to be, so week 3 is going to be what? 3, if you want to put it in that order. So the answer is going to be A. So if we calculate this, we're going to have 24 plus 5. So week 3 is going to be 29 pallets shipped. But that is the expression A. All right. A jar contains 4 red marbles, 6 blue marbles, 5 green marbles. 1 red marble has already been removed. So we are now having 3 red. We're now having 3 red, 6 blue, and 5 green because they've removed one red marble already. So they said if 2 more marbles are selected without replacement, what is the probability that both are red? So let's go ahead and do this tree diagram. So we have let's do red, green, red, blue, green, right? So what is the probability of red is gonna be the number of red divided by the total number of marbles. So it's gonna be 9, that's 14, right? So this one is gonna be 6 over 14, and this one is gonna be 5 over 14. And if you sum all of those, you will have 1. So let's go ahead and do this. So I'm just gonna focus on the red. So we have red, blue, green. So I'm just gonna focus on the red. So red, I can ignore those ones. So now they said the second time, right? The second draw. So we pick red without replacement. So the number of reds will reduce to 2. And the total number of marbles will reduce to 13. So we are looking for the probability of red, red. So which is this red, red. So you can ignore all these guys because this one is blue, red. This one is green, red. So they're looking for the probability of red, red. So that probability is just going to be equal to 3 over 14 times 2 over 13. So if we calculate that, so 3 over 14 times 2 over 13, so it's going to be, so 7, this is 7 times 13 is 91. So the answer is 3 over 91. So the answer is going to be what? C, right? A wildlife center recorded the number of animals treated during 6 months. So we have month, January, February, March through June. Animals treated, you can see the number of animals treated. What percentage of the total animals treated during this period were treated in May, right? So first of all, we're gonna look for the total number of animals treated during this period. So let's look for summation. So 48 plus 36 plus 42 plus 54 plus 60 plus 40. So this is gonna give us 280. Now that percentage is gonna be equal to what? The percentage of animals treated in May is gonna be the number of animals treated in May all over the total number of animals times 100%, right? So this is gonna be equal to the number of animals treated in May were 60. So the total number of animals treated 280 times 100%. So this is gonna be 21.43%. So approximately the answer is gonna give us 21.4%. So the answer is gonna be B, approximately. A furniture store advertised a dining table for 25% off its original price of $680. What is the sale price of the table, right? So first of all, let's look at it. Let's look for the discount. So the discount is equal to 25%, which is 25 over 100 times the original price, right? So this is equal to, so it's gonna be equal to $170, right? So that will be the discount. So now sale price is gonna be equal to what? 680 minus the discount, right? So that's gonna be equal to what? 510, right? So the answer is gonna be 510, which is B. All right. The answer is gonna be B. A delivery driver must travel 2,400 miles. His truck averages 24 miles per hour per gallon, and the fuel tank holds 20 gallons. How many fuel tanks of gas will be needed to complete the trip? So they've given us an average of what, 24 miles per gallon. So we can use that, get the number of gallons that will be needed for the trip. So we have what, 2,400 miles. So they've given us 24 miles per gallon, right? So 1 gallon is 24 miles. So this is gonna be equal to what? 100 gallons, right? So this is gonna, so the truck driver is gonna need 100 gallons. So now, if the tank can only hold what? So we have 20 gallons per tank, right? So it means that 100 gallons gonna be what? Gonna be, so we divide that. 100 gallon, one tank is 20 gallons. So 100 gallon is gonna be 5 tanks, right? 100 gallon is gonna be 5 tanks. So you see that the answer is gonna be B, right? During basketball practice, Mia attempted 40 free throws. She missed 12 shots. Approximately what percentage of her free throws were successful? Right? Now, let's look for the number of free throws. The number of free throws is going to be equal to what? It's going to be equal to 40 minus 12, which is going to be what? 28 free throws. 28 free throws. Now, the percentage of free throws is going to be equal to what? 28 over 40 times 100%. So this is going to give us what? So 28 divided by 40 times 100. So it's going to give us 70%. So her success rate was 70%. So that is pretty good. I don't think I can be that good. It's only Michael Jordan that can be that good. All right. A student must earn more than 80 points to pass a certification exam. Each correct answer is worth 3 points. Let X represent the number of questions answered correctly. Which inequality represent this situation? First of all, they said more than. So more than already mean what? Greater than, right? So you know that this one is already wrong and this one is already wrong, right? Now, they said each correct answer is 3 points. Let us take for instance that you answer 3 correct. Therefore, mean you are gonna get what? 3 times 3, which is 9 points, right? Let's say you answer 4 correct. So you're gonna get 4 times 3, which is gonna be what? 12 points. So if you answer X correct, you're gonna answer what? X times 3, right? So the total number here is gonna be 3x. Therefore means that 3x must always be greater than what? 84. You see that? So this is gonna be the inequality because you must answer more than what? You must score more than 84 points to pass the certification exam. Not 84, but more than 84 points to pass the certification exam. So the answer is gonna be B. A warehouse records the number of shipments processed each week. And we have this data. So each data point represents 1 week, right? So we have week 1, week 2, up to week end. What is the greatest increase between consecutive weeks? So let's look at the difference between each data point. These data points. So I want to look for this difference here. This difference here is gonna give us what? I could just write these data points down. So we have 55, 60, 62. We have 82, right? So this difference is gonna be 60 minus 55 is gonna give us 5. 62 minus 60 is gonna give us 2. 68 minus 62 is gonna give us 6, right? 72 minus 68 is gonna give us 4. 75 minus 72 is gonna give us 3. 58 minus 75 is gonna give us what? It's gonna give us negative 17. 80 minus 58. 80 minus 58 is going to give us, and 65 minus 60 is going to give us 25. And then we have what here? 82 minus 85 is going to give us -3. So you see that the biggest difference is 85 minus, is 85 minus 60, right? Which is 25. So that biggest difference is going to be D, 25, right? So you just look for those differences, and yeah, there you go. A community garden harvested 500 tomatoes. Volunteers distributed 18% of them to local food banks. Approximately what percentage remains? So this is just gonna be 100% minus 18%, which is gonna give us what, 82, right? This is very easy. This is like, the most the easiest question I've ever seen in my entire life, right? Uh, which equation describes a directly proportional relationship? So, uh, for a direct proportion, right? For a direct proportion, in general, this is a direct proportional relationship in general, where k is a constant and the graph passes through the origin, right? The graph passes through the origin like that. The graph passes through the origin and k is a constant, right? Uh, Looking at these options, the correct answer is gonna be A, because we have y is equal to 7x, and you see that the constant here k is equal to 7, and you see that when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0. Therefore, means the graph passes through the origin, unlike the other ones. D is an inverse proportion, right? D is an inverse proportion. Uh, C is a quadratic equation. B is the you see that the graph, if you wanna look for this graph doesn't pass it through the origin, right? This graph doesn't pass it through the origin. It cut the y-axis at 0, 4, right? It cut the y-axis at 0, 4, so that graph doesn't pass it through the origin. So therefore the correct answer there is gonna be A. A hospital has two departments. Department A contains 55% of employees. Department B contains 45% of employees. Of Department A employees, 20% work night shifts. Of Department B employees, 35% work night shift. Which department has the greater percentage of night shift employees? So what would the answer be? I know that some students are already thinking perhaps Department A. Some people are already thinking Department A, right? Some people will be thinking that. So this question doesn't ask for the number of employees, but which department is having the greatest percentage of night shift employees, right? They're talking about the greater percentage, not the number of employees, right? They're talking about the greater percentage of night shift. So when they talk about the greater percentage of night shift, we are just gonna go ahead and come. This is a very big trap, right? We are just gonna go ahead and compare these percentages. So between these two percentages, which one is greater? So of course it will be 35%, right? So the answer is gonna give us what? The answer is gonna be Department B, because Department B is having the greater percentage of night shift employees. I hope you get it. So that is it. A city plans to place lights around a square park. Each side of the park is 450 feet long, and the lighting wire costs $2.2 per foot. How much will the city spend to install the wire around the entire park? So we have to know that the park is a square. It's a square park, right? It's a square park, and each side of the park is 450 feet. 450 feet, right? So we have to look at the perimeter. The perimeter is going to be equal to 450 times 4, right? So we're going to have a total perimeter of 1,800 feet, right? The total cost to install this lighting is going to be equal to what? 1,800 times $2.2. So which is going to be equal to what? 3960. 3960 dollars. So the answer is going to be B, right? The answer is going to be B, 3960. Jordan buys 2 pairs of sneakers during a store promotion. The sale gives 30% off the second item of equal or lesser value. One pair costs $80 and the other costs $60. How much will Jordan spend before tax? So first item equal to $80. Second item is equal to $60. Since the second item is less than the first item, so we're gonna have a discount. So minus 30%, which is 30 over 100 times 60. So this is gonna be $60 minus, so 0.3 times 60 is gonna give us $18. So which is equal to $42, right? So the total spend before tax. Before tax, they're gonna spend $80 plus $42, which is gonna give us what? $122. So the answer is gonna be A, right? It's gonna be A. A carpenter stacks 2 storage boxes in a garage. One box is 12.5 inches tall, and the other is 3/4 inches tall. What is the combined height of the 2 boxes? That means if they stack the boxes all together, what would be the combined height, right? Let me try to visualize this. So you have one box like that and the other box all like that. So this one is, let us just say this one is 9/3, and this is 12.5, right? So you realize that a half and 3/4, they don't have the same denominator, right? The denominator is not the same. So we are going to convert, let us just call this H1 and this H2. So H1 is going to be equal to 12. So this is going to be, a half is the same as 2/4, right? So you see that 2/4 and 3/4 have the same denominator, which is 4. So we can go ahead and add the height. So H1 now plus H2 is going to be 12 whole number 2/4 plus 9 whole number 3/4. So this is going to give us 21 plus, now we cannot add the fractions, right? We can now add the fractions, which will be 2 over 4 plus 3 over 4. So this is going to give us what? This is going to give us 5 over 4. And 5 over 4 is one whole number, 1 over 4. So this is going to be 21 plus one whole number, 1 over 4, which is equal to 22 whole number, 1 over 4. And the answer is going to be B. Perfect. A teacher compares the number of practice tests students complete with their exam scores. The scatter plot shows that as practice tests increase, exam scores also increase in a straight line pattern, which best describes the data. Right? If I want to illustrate this, so if we have, look at this scatter plot. So this is the test, right? The practice test, and we have the scores, right? And what happened is that the plot, this is how the scatter plot is going to look like, right? As the practice test increases, so does the scores increase, right? Now, let's look at the options. When you look at this, right, you just know that it's a positive uh, correlation, right? It's a positive linear correlation. Now, they said this is a non-linear. Of course, it already makes this wrong, right? It already makes A is already wrong by saying non-linear. So we eliminate A, right? A is not the answer. B, this is a linear association with a positive correlation between bivariate data. Why bivariate data? Because we are dealing with two variables. The score are increasing, making scores variables, a variable. The practice test, the number of practice tests are increasing, making it also a variable. So two variables compared together is a bivariate data. So those are bivariate. That is a bivariate data. So if yeah, that's what it is, right? So the answer is gonna be B. The answer is not C. It is not D. A negative correlation will look somewhat like this, right? It would be regressing like that. So that will be a negative correlation. It's regressing. So the best answer there is gonna be B. It is a positive linear association. It is a it is, it is a linear association with a positive correlation between bivariate data. A suitcase weighs 32 kilograms. Approximately how many pounds does it weigh? Note, 1 kilogram is approximately equal to 2.2 pounds. So let's look at it. So weight W is equal to 32 kilograms. Now we know that 1 kilogram is what? Is given as 2.2 pounds. So therefore mean this is gonna be 32 times 1 kilogram, which is 2.2 pounds. And this is gonna give us 70 point something, right? 70.4 pounds. So if you convert this to two significant figures, it's just gonna be 70 pounds. And the answer is A. It's approximately A. Yeah. So for x, 3x minus 5 is equal to x plus 9. So we have 3x minus 5 is equal to x plus 9, right? So you see that to eliminate negative 5, we add 5 to both sides of the equation. To eliminate x from the right hand side, we subtract x from both sides of the equation to make it all balanced. Then we add that and see what happens. So 3x minus x will give you 2x. Minus 5 plus 5 is going to be 0. So this is just going to be equal to negative x minus x is 0. 9 plus 5 is going to be 14. So we have 2x here. And what is making it not independent? Independent is because 2 is multiplied to 8. And we just have to divide both sides by 2, which is the opposite of multiplication, to make x independent. So we're going to have x equal to 7. And the answer is A, right? 5 less than a number m is equal to twice another number n plus 7. Which equation correctly represents this statement? So 5 less than a number, 5 less than a number, we mean what? This statement, 5 less than a number m, we mean m minus 5, right? And twice another number plus 7. Twice another number plus 7. So twice another number n plus 7. So twice another number is going to be 2n plus 7. So if these are equal, if these statements are equal, it means that m minus 5 is going to be the same as 2n plus 7. And that becomes yeah, that is the answer, right? That is going to be the answer, and the answer here is going to be A, right? Perfect. Derek is planning a weekend trip. His train ticket costs $420. He will stay at a hotel for 4 nights at $110 per night. He budgeted $180 for activities and $220 for food. The hotel offers a 15% discount on every night after the first night. Taking the discount into account, how much does Derek expect to spend in total? So we will be considering the ticket, the night, the activities, and the food, right? But the discount only affects the night. So let's look at how much he spent for the night, right? The full night. So it's gonna be equal to 4 times what? 110. So this is gonna be 440 that he spent for the night, that he is expected to spend. But then he's gonna get a discount. So the first night is not gonna be charged. Therefore, means it's not gonna get a discount. Therefore, means he's gonna get a discount for 3 other nights, right? So 3 nights is gonna be 3 times 110, which is equal to 330. Now 15% discount is gonna be 15 over 100 times 330, which this is gonna be equal to 49.5, right? $49.5. That's gonna be the discount. So not for the night, he's gonna spend 440 $440 minus 49.5, which is gonna be equal to 390.5, right? That is the total he's gonna spend for the night, right? Now, therefore means the total he will spend is the cost of the ticket plus the night. He will spend 390.5 plus what? Plus $180 for activities plus $220 for food, and that is gonna give us what? $1,210.5. So the answer is gonna be B. Perfect. The double bar graph below shows the number of students in 2 classes based on the number of hours they study each week. So you can see the number of students right there and the number of hours on the x-axis. Now you can see that they say which statement best describes the distribution of the two classes based on the graph, right? Now, I just want us to know to look at something. If we want to trace, look at I can draw this like that, right? See that it's kind of like normal, right? So this guy we're gonna be. So this is x, right? And this is y. So you see that for x is kind of like that. X is kind of like something like that, right? Which is positively skewed, right? If you want to look at it, your right leg is like that at your toes, and you know, you, so your right leg is kind of like, if you want to know about it, your right leg, the way your right leg goes, the way the toes are aligned is positive skewed. Your left leg is negatively skewed. So that is the way you know whether it is negative or positively skewed. So this one is, so you see that x is going to be positively skewed. Y though is going to be a normal distribution, right? It's going to be normally distributed. This is a normal distribution. This normal. It's a normal distribution, right? So let's look at the best answer to these. A x is negatively skewed. Nope. B class x is positively skewed. Y class y is approximately normal. So the answer is gonna be B, right? So um, yeah, that is it, right? So we have this will not change. 8x squared minus 4xy plus 6. Now, the way that you align like term is that, like terms, you need to look at the variables. Terms are alike if they have the same variables with the same powers, right? Like, for example, we have what? 8x squared and what? 3x squared are both like terms because they both have what? The same variable, which is x, and they both have the same power, which is what? 2, right? Now, 4xy and and of course 4xy, they are both like terms because they have the same variables. We are going to bring these like terms together. Now, when you open the first bracket by multiplying all the terms in the bracket with a negative sign, we are going to have negative 3x squared minus minus 4xy, I mean, minus 2, because the negative outside the bracket had multiplied each term in the parentheses, right? So in this case now, we will have we will now bring like terms together. So 8x squared would be closer to minus 3x. So we will write 8x squared minus 3x squared. And then again we have what? Minus 4xy will be closer to, so negative here will be positive 4xy, right? And then again negative here will be positive. So we have plus 6 plus 2, right? You see that? So 8x squared minus 3x squared will just be 5x squared. Minus 4xy plus 4xy is going to be 0, right? Because those are the same term with opposite signs. So when you add them, it's 0. So it's just like 4xy minus 4xy, which is 0. 6 plus 2 is going to give you 8. right? So the answer is going to be 5x squared plus 8, which is A, right? Now, let's look at this question. Simplify the expression below. So we have parentheses open 5a squared plus 2ab minus 7 minus parentheses open 3a squared minus 6ab plus 4 parentheses close. Now we are going to bring the like terms together. Remember, we can rewrite this this expression as 5a squared plus 2ab minus 7. Now you see that you notice that there is a minus outside that bracket, so we have to bring it inside. And whenever we bring it inside, all the signs of each of the terms that is inside that bracket we have to change. So we now have negative 3a squared plus 6ab. You notice that we had minus 6ab, now it's plus 6ab. Now we had plus 4, now it's going to be negative 4. And now, if you add this up, we have 5a squared minus 3a squared is going to give you 2a squared, right? 2ab plus 6ab is going to give you 8ab. Minus 7 minus 4 is going to give you minus 11. So this is going to be the answer, right? No further simplification because there are no more like terms, right? So the answer is going to be, so it's the A, right? It's A. 2a squared plus 8ab minus 11. Simplify the expression below. 6m squared minus 3mn plus 5 minus, so bracket open, 2m squared plus 7mn minus 9, right? Now, these questions are very similar to the ones that we've already solved. So we're just going to have 6m squared minus 3mn plus 5. This is the first parenthesis. And the second parenthesis, you notice that what? There is a negative outside that bracket. So we are gonna have all the signs of each of the terms in that bracket will have to change. So instead of 2m squared, we are gonna have negative 2m squared. Instead of plus 7mn, we are gonna have negative 7mn. Instead of negative 9, we are gonna have plus 9. So that when the negative sign get into that bracket, all the signs we change. Now let's add this up and see what happens. Like terms, right? 6m squared minus 2m squared is gonna give you 4m squared, right? Minus 3mn minus 7mn is gonna give you negative 10mn. 5 plus 9 is gonna give you 14. So that is the answer because there are no more like terms. So the answer is gonna be A. Now this is just a coincidence that almost all the answers are A. Now simplify the expression below. So we have 9p squared plus 5pq minus 12. Now, since there's a negative outside that bracket, the signs of each of those terms in there will change. So this is what you need to understand. This is going to be negative. We're going to have positive 3pq, and we are going to have negative 6. Now, if we sum this up, we're going to have 9p squared minus 4p squared is going to give us 5p squared. Now, 5p cubed plus 3p cubed is going to give us 8p cubed. Negative 12 minus 6 is going to give us negative 18. Right? So the answer is A. Simplify the expression below. So we are having 7y squared minus 2xy minus 11, right? So then each of the terms in there, we the signs of each of the terms in there will change because of the negative sign attached outside the bracket. So we're gonna have negative 5y squared minus 4xy plus 3, right? So the signs are gonna change. So now negative 7y squared minus 5y squared is gonna give us 2y squared. Minus 2xy minus 4xy is gonna give us negative 6xy, right? Negative 11 plus 3 is gonna give us negative what? 8, right? So that is gonna be the answer. I bet you is A. Solving inequalities. Solve the equation below. So we have the absolute value of 3x minus 2 is equal to 16. Now we need to first of all understand what an absolute value is, right? The absolute value of x is defined by the piecewise definition. X if x is greater than or equal to 0, right? Minus x if x is strictly less than 0. So that is the definition of your absolute value of x, right? Now it means that this equation needs to have two parts, right? The part where we have the positive value, which is 3x minus 2 is equal to 16. That is positive, right? On the other part where we have what? Negative 3x minus 2 equal to 16. So those are the two possible equations that we can have, right? Now let's solve this one. So solving this, I can just say 3x minus 2 is equal to negative 16. So I can multiply both sides of the equation by a negative sign, and I have that. So in this case, we add 2 to both sides of the equation, and we'll be left with 3x is equal to minus 16 plus 2 is going to give us minus 14. And we divide both sides by 3, and x here is going to give us what? Negative 14 over 3. Right? That's the first value of x. Now let's look at this one. We just need to add 2 to both sides of this equation to eliminate negative 2 from the left-hand side. And we will be left with 3x is equal to 18. Here we divide both sides by what? 3. And we have x equal to 6. So x will be what? X will be negative 14 over 3, 6, right? See that, right? There you go. So the answer is going to be D. D is the best choice. Now let's look at this one. Solve the equation below. So we have the absolute value of 2x plus 5 is equal to 9. So in this case, we're just going to split the equation into two parts, right? Remember the definition of absolute value. Now, so we are going to have the positive part of the equation, which is 2x plus 5 equal to 9. And we are going to have the negative part of the equation, which is negative 2x plus 5 equal to 9, right? So let's solve this one first. So I can just rewrite this as, I can multiply both sides by a negative sign, and I will have that, right? Just multiply all through by a negative sign to, make everything easy. So we subtract 5 from both sides now, and we are going to be left with 2x is equal to negative 9 minus 5 is going to give us negative 14, right? And we divide both sides by negative 2, and we're going to have x equal to negative 7. So that's the first value. In this second part of the equation, we are going to have, we are going to subtract -5 on both sides. And we are going to be left with 2x is equal to 4. We divide both sides by 2. And in this case, x is just going to be equal to 2. So the value of x is equal to what? -7, comma 2. So -7, comma 2. The correct answer is going to be A, right? 2, -7. Solve the equation below. So we have the absolute value of 4x minus 8 is equal to 0. So, like we said, the definition of an absolute value is equal to what? X for x greater than or equal to 0, negative x for x less than 0. But in this case, where we have what? The absolute value equal to 0, right? There is only one solution here. There is only one solution, which is what? When x is equal to 0. So the absolute value of x is equal to 0 if x is 0. So that is just what it is, right? Now, the absolute value of 4x minus 8 is equal to 0 if 4x minus 8 is 0. That's the only condition. Now we add 8 to both sides of the equation. We are going to have 4x is equal to 8. And we divide both sides by 4. We're going to have x equal to 2. So that's the only value of x. X equal to 2. So the answer is going to be A, right? Perfect. Now, Maria has a budget of $250. Each item costs $30. Which inequality represents n items? So remember, so each item, right? Each item is $30. So it means that the total is going to be what? It's going to be 30 n if we are talking about n items to be purchased, right? Now, budget. What is going to be the budget? The budget, you cannot spend more than what? You can only spend a maximum of $250. So it's going to be at most $250, which is what? Less than or equal to $250. So we are going to have the equation 30n must be less than or equal to $250. Therefore means you cannot spend more than $250, but you need to purchase what? N items, right? So that is what it is, right? So if you want to look at this, each item will cost what? Each item will be less than or equal to 25/3, right? Each item will be less than or equal to 25/3. So the answer is gonna be B. Now, solve the inequalities. A gym charges $25 per class. You can spend at most $200. Which inequality represents n, right? Again, so charge is equal to what? $25, right? That's the charge. So the total charge, yeah, if you wanna do n classes, right? Total is gonna be what? It's gonna be 250 25n, right? So if you want to do like n classes, so the total now is gonna be 25n. Now, at most, in mathematics is less than or equal to, right? So at most means that you cannot spend more than $200. Just like the previous question. So this will just be what? This will just be 25n is less than or equal to 200, right? So that is it. At most. So this means that n would be less than or equal to what? 8, right? So you can with $200 you can do a maximum of what? 8 classes, right? So the answer is gonna be B, right? B. Now solve the equation below. So in this case, we are still gonna split it into two parts. The positive part, which is 5x is equal to 20, and the negative part, which is negative 5x is equal to 20. Now in this case, let's solve this one. So we're just gonna divide both sides here by negative 5, and x is gonna be equal to 20 divided by 5 is gonna give us 4. So x is gonna be equal to negative 4. Now in this case, we are gonna divide both sides by 5, and x here is gonna be equal to what? 5. 20 divided by 5, which is 4. So our solution would be x equal to, so we have negative 4, 4. So that would be the values of x, right? So negative 4, 4. Now the answer is gonna be A, right? Perfect. Solve the equation below. So in this case, we are gonna split it into two parts. So the part where is positive, which will be x over 2 minus 3 is equal to 5. And the part where we have a negative sign, which will be negative into x over 2 minus 3 equal to 5, right? So let's solve this one. So we can rearrange these two. X over 2 minus 3 is equal to negative 5. So in this case, we will add plus 3 to both sides of the equation. And we will have x over 2 is equal to negative 5 plus 3 is going to give us negative 2. Now, in this case, we are going to multiply 2. We are going to multiply both sides of the equation by 2, which is because x is divided by 2, the opposite of that operation is going to be multiplication. And we will have x here equal to what? Negative 4. Yeah, that's the first value of x. So in this other equation, we are going to add 3 to both sides of the equation. And we have x over 2 is equal to 8, right? Now we multiply 2 and multiply both sides of the equation by 2. And we have x is equal to 16. So our final answer is going to be negative 4, 16. So you see that, right? Negative 4, 16. So the answer is going to be, so 16 negative 4, whatever. That is going to be A, right? Let's look at this one. A ticket costs $45. There is a fee. There is a $10 fee. You have at most $200. Which inequality represents T? Now, if we break this down, each ticket is $45, right? Each ticket is $45. Means that total number of tickets, right, that you can buy is gonna be what? is gonna be 45. The cost of, the total number of tickets that the cost of the tickets you can buy is gonna be 45T, right? Now there's a one-time fee or what? There's a one-time fee of $10, right? There's a one-time fee of $10. Therefore, you can spend on most what? You can spend on most $200. Therefore, means that 45 T, which is the total cost of the ticket you can buy, plus a one-time fee that you pay, must always be less than what? Must always be less than or equal to $200. Because remember, you have a budget of $200 and you need to pay a fee of $10 and then purchase T tickets, right? T tickets that we don't know. So for you to know the number of tickets that you need to purchase under this budget, you need to first of all subtract the $10 from the $200 that you want to that you have at your disposal before now knowing what is left to be spent, right? So that is it. So you will see that T is just going to be equal to what? 190 divided by 45, right? So the number of tickets that will be bought, that can be bought less than or equal to that, right? Now, the answer is going to be A, right? The answer is going to be A. Let's look at this one. Now, they said, so the absolute value of x can never be negative. The absolute value of x can never be negative. So there is no way you will have, even if you have the absolute value of -4 is equal to 4. The absolute value of -a is equal to a. The absolute value of whatsoever here, maybe the absolute value of z is equal to z. So the absolute value of anything, right? The absolute value of anything is always equal to positive. It's always equal to positive. It can either be positive or 0, right? So it can either be 0. It is always greater than or equal to 0, right? It's always greater than or equal to 0. So the absolute value of n is always greater than or equal to 0. All right? So that is what you need to know. Therefore means there is no solution to that. So you cannot tell me that the absolute value of x minus 7 is equal to -3. That doesn't exist in the universe, right? It doesn't exist. A student earns $12 an hour. She already has $36. She won at least $180. She wants at least $180. Which inequality represent h? You see? So she already earned what? She earns $12 an hour. $12 per hour, right? So it means that the total, if she work for 8 hours, she will earn what? She will earn 12H, right? She has $36 saved in her account, right? So this one is already saved, right? That is saved already. So if you wanna lease $80, so at least in mathematics, if you wanna lease $180, so at least it's gonna be greater than or equal to, right? So that is in mathematics, at least is greater than or equal to. So you will see that she will need to put in 12 times 8 hours plus the amount of money that she already has, it should be greater than or equal to $180, right? So she already has $36 and she need to put in 8 hours times 12 to have at least $180, right? So therefore means the answer to this is A. Remember, A at least is greater than or equal to. So it's gonna be A. Right. That is perfect. Let's look at more examples concerning linear equation, because linear equations are what is tested on ATI TEAS often, because ATI TEAS is not complexity but consistency and your ability to be able to solve these questions under pressure. Question 5, solve for x over 4 plus 6 is equal to 10. In this case, you see that the term independent of x is what? Is plus 6. So we have to subtract 6 from both sides of the equation, right? Subtract 6 on both sides of the equation. Now, when we do that, this will be 0, and when we have x over 4 is equal to 10 minus 6 is going to be 4. Now, x is not independent here because x is divided by 4. So the opposite of division is going to be multiplication. So we are going to multiply both sides by 4. So when you do that, 4 is going to cancel, and we have x is equal to 4 times 4, which is 16. So the value of x in this case is x equal to 16. So the answer is going to be what? C. You see that, right? That is straightforward. Question 6, solve for x. So we have 2x over 3 is equal to 14, right? So you notice here that x is not independent because of a fraction. But first of all, we are going to deal with the division. 2x is being divided by what? By 3. So we are going to first of all eliminate 3 side by multiplying both sides of the equation by what? By 3, right? By 3. So when you do that, we are going to 3 is going to cancel from the left hand side, and we are going to be left with 2x is equal to 14 times 3 is going to give us what? 42, right? So in this case, x is not independent yet because it's multiplied by 2, and the opposite of that operation is going to be division. So we're going to divide both sides by 2, and we're going to have x is equal to 21, right? So x in that case is 21. The answer is C. Be mindful. The answer is not always C, right? Don't you just go and guess and say, oh, the answer is always C. You're going to fail, believe me. Question 7, solve for x. So we have 7x minus 4 is equal to 3x plus 20, right? So in this case, we notice that we have variables on both sides of the equation. So we have to bring like terms together. We have to bring the biggest variable to meet the smallest variable. So the smallest variable is going to be 3x. So we are going to bring 3x closer to 7x. And we are going to bring negative 4 closer to plus 20, right? Now, for us to do that, for us to eliminate 3x from the right-hand side, we are going to subtract 3x from both sides of the equation, right? For us to eliminate negative 4 from the left-hand side of the equation, we are going to do the opposite of that, which is plus 4 on both sides of the equations, right? On both sides of the equation. Now, when we do this addition, so 7 minus 3 is going to give us 4. And the variable is x. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. So this is going to be equal to negative 3x minus 3x is going to be 0. 20 plus 4 is going to be 24. So in this case, x is not independent. So it is multiplied by 4. So we are going to divide which is the opposite of that operation. We're going to divide both sides by 4. And the result is x equal to 6. For those who had been taking C, the answer now is B. Question 8. Solve for x, the equation. So now we have 9x plus 6 is equal to 3x plus 30. Right? In this case, we need to bring like terms together. We subtract 3x from both sides of the equation. Then we add, 6. We have plus 6 on the left hand side. So to eliminate plus 6 from the left hand side, we are going to do what? We are going to subtract 6 from both sides of the equation. And when that is done, 9x minus 3x is 6x, right? Plus 6 minus 6 is 0. So we are going to have, this is equal to 3x minus 3x is 0. 30 minus 6 is going to be 24, right? So in this case, x is not yet independent because it's multiplied by 6. Now we're going to divide both sides by 6. And x is equal to 4. So that is the answer there. B. Question 9. Solve for x. So we have in a parenthesis here. 4 parenthesis open, x plus 3 is equal to 28. So I'm going to show you guys 2 ways to solve this. Now, the first is, the distribution law, right? We have to multiply all what is inside this parenthesis by 4. So we have to multiply 4 times x plus 4 times 3, which gives you 28. So in this case, we have 4x plus 12 is equal to 28. So we subtract both sides. We subtract 12 from both sides. And we are going to be left with 4x is equal to 28 minus 12 is going to give you 16. Right? I think it's 16, right? Going to give you 16. And we divide both sides by 4. And x is going to be equal to what? 4. Right? Now, a smart student, we say, okay, I don't want to waste no time. We have 4 into x plus 3 is equal to 28. Now, I realize that I can just divide both sides by 4 first. When I do that, I'll be left with x plus 3 is equal to 28 divided by 4 is 7. And in this case, we just subtract 3 from both sides. And x is equal to 7 minus 3, which is 4. Right? That is the, okay. But I always advise that you always, deal with the bracket first. Follow the, the order of operation. Because in this case, I treated the bracket as one term, right? I consider that the bracket, so we had it's just like 4a is equal to 28. And then, a is equal to 7. And in this case, a is x plus 3, which is 7. And then in that case, x is equal to 4, right? So that is what I did. But you don't do it. I advise you to open the brackets first, right? If you understand it, then fine. But if not, open the brackets first. Now, let's look at question 10. Solve for x. So we have 3x plus 8 is equal to 2x plus 19. So I'm solving as many questions as possible so that you don't have any excuses to say, oh, you don't understand this. I want you to understand it perfectly well. So in this case, we will have to bring like terms together. So we subtract 2x from both sides of the equation to eliminate the variable from the right hand side, right? Then we are going to subtract 8 from both sides to eliminate 8 from the left hand side of the equation. So 3x minus 2x is going to give us x. Some people will say 1x, but as a mathematician, you should understand that 1x is just x. Now 2x minus 2x is 0. 19 minus 8 is 11. So this means x is officially 11. Perfect. So x is 11 and we are all good. Wait. A baker used 29/4 cups of flour during the day. How much is this as a mixed number or a mixed fraction? So we have 29/4. So let's use the long division method. So 29/4. So which whole number closest to 29 can divide 4 without a remainder? So we're going to have 28. 28 divided by 4 is going to be 7, right? 7 times 4 now is 28. So we subtract. We're going to have 1. So 29 divided by 4 is 7 whole number, 1/4, right? 7 whole number. So this is the whole number and that is the remainder. So we have 7 whole number, 1/4 is the answer. Right? So the answer is gonna be B, right? All right. Let's look at this one. A nurse walked 17/3 miles during her shift. Convert this distance into a mixed fraction or a mixed number. Yeah. So we have 17/3. So this is gonna be equal to. So we have 17/3 there. Which closest whole number can divide 3 without a remainder is gonna be 15. So 15 divided by 3 is gonna give you what? 5. 5 times 3, 15 over there. We subtract. So this is gonna give us 2, which is the remainder. So 17 divided by 3 is gonna be 5 whole number. 2 divided by 3, right? There you go. A carpenter cut 45/8 feet of wood. What is this measurement as a mixed number or a mixed fraction? So we have 45/8, right? So this is equal to, so we have 45/8. So which closest whole number to 45 can divide 8 without a remainder is going to be 40, right? So 40 divided by 8 is going to give us 5. 5 and 8, of course, is 40. So when we subtract this, we're going to have 5, right? So, which is the remainder, right? So this answer is going to be equal to 5 whole number, 5/8, right? So that is going to be the answer. So 5 whole number, 5/8 is going to be the answer, which is C, right? Perfect. Let's look at this one. Percent increase. A medical assistant earns $48,000 per year. She receives a 10% raise next year. How much more money will she make? Right? So we need to look for the actual increase, right? Actual increase will be equal to 10%, right? So 10% is just going to be 10/100 times the principal amount, which is 48,000, right? So this is just gonna be equal to $4,800, right? $4,800, right? So the money should we make. So next year's income is gonna be what? 48,000 plus 4,800. So this is gonna be what? $52,800, right? $52,800. Oh, they said how much more? How much more money we should make? Oh, so that is the question. So the answer is gonna be just 4,800. So it's gonna be 4,800. But the total amount of money she will make next year is gonna be 52,800, right? A software engineer, a software technician earns 62,000 yearly. His company gives him a 4% salary increase. How much is the increase? So they're asking for the actual increase. Actual increase is gonna be equal to what? It's gonna be equal to 4% of 62,000. So these are gonna be what? 4/100 and 62,000, which is equal to 4 times 620. So this is gonna give us 2,480. So $2,480, which is gonna be A. So that is the actual increase. So if we want to know the total amount of money they're gonna make, the new income is gonna be what? 64,480, right? All right. A teacher currently earns 55,000 annually. If her pay increases by 6%, how much additional income will she earn? So in these cases, we are looking for actual increase. So actual increase is gonna be we're looking for 6% of 55,000. So these are gonna be what? 6/100 and 55,000, which is gonna be 6 times 550, right? 6 times 550, which is gonna be equal to $3,300. So the answer is gonna be B. Perfect. For some reason, when they mention algebra, students are like scared. I don't know why. Is it because the name is too ambiguous? Algebra is just adding numbers. If you do well with adding fractions and numbers and whole numbers, you will also do well solving algebra, right? Now, let's look at question 1. Solve for x. So we have 3x is equal to 18. So 3x over 5, right? So in this case, you notice that word. We need to make x independent, right? We need to make x independent. So the only thing that is, kind of like holding us back from making x independent is first of all the fraction, right? So 5 is divided. So the direct opposite of that operation, division, is multiplication, right? The opposite of division is multiplication. So we have to multiply both sides. Whatever you do on one side, you have to do to the other side of the equation to make it balance, right? So when you multiply both sides, you will see that 5 we cancel and we will be left with what? 3x is equal to, now 5 times 18 is gonna be 90, right? You see that? Now, again, this is another linear equation. And in this case, it's only 3 multiplied to x, that is making x not independent. So the opposite of that operation is division, right? The opposite of division is multiplication. The opposite of multiplication is division. So in this case, we are going to divide both sides by what? 3. And when you do that, we will just be left with x here, which is independent, is equal to 9 divided by 3 is 3. And x will be equal to 30. And you see that the answer is B. Nice and clean. No, you just have to follow the steps, right? Now, let's look at question 2. Solve for x, the equation 4x minus 7 is equal to 21. So we have what? 4x minus 7 is equal to 21, right? So in this case, you always need to deal with terms that are independent of x, or in other words, term that doesn't have x, right? And in this case, it's negative 7, right? Negative 7 doesn't have x, so we have to eliminate negative 7. And the opposite of that operation is addition. So we have to add plus 7 to both sides of the equation to eliminate 7. And when we do that, you see that this becomes 0, and we're left with just 4x is equal to 21 plus 7 gives you 28. Now we are now having 4x is equal to 28. What is making x not independent is because it is 4 multiplied to x, right? So we have to do away with that by dividing both sides of the equation by 4, right? And when you divide both sides of the equation by 4, we will be left with x is equal to 28 divided by 4. You see that gives you 7. And the answer is B, right? Clean and clear. Now let's look at question 3. Solve for x, the equation 6 parenthesis open x minus 2 parenthesis close is equal to 30. So we have 6 into x minus 2 is equal to 30. So in this case, we have to first of all open the bracket. We have to deal with the bracket, right? And expanding bracket, you have to use what is outside the bracket to multiply all what is inside the bracket. So in other words, you have to multiply 6 times x, right? And multiply 6 times negative 2, right? So we have to multiply 6 times x and then minus 6 times 2. So this is going to give us what? 30. So you see that we multiplied this and multiplied that. You see that? Now, so this is going to give us 6x minus 12 is equal to 30. And you see that the term independent of x is minus 12. So to eliminate minus 12, we add 12 to both sides of the equation. So we will have 6x is equal to 30. So plus 12 is 42. Right? So, and we divide both sides by 6. And you see that x here is equal to 42 divided by 6, which is 7. That is clean and simple. And the answer is C. Right? Now, let's look at question 4. Solve for x. 5x plus 12 is equal to 3x plus 28. In this case, we see that the variable is on both sides of the equation, right? So we have 5x plus 12 is equal to 3x plus 28, right? So in this case, we need to bring like terms together, right? We need to bring like terms together. So I can start by, first of all, bringing x together, the terms in x together. So negative x will come and join, we come closer to 5. 3x will come closer to 5. So for us to do that, we have to eliminate 3x from the right hand side by subtracting 3x from both sides of the equation, right? And also we need to eliminate plus 12 from the left hand side of the equation by doing what? By subtracting 12 from both sides of the equation. And when you do this, you see that 5x minus 3x is going to give you 2x. 12 minus 12 is 0, which is equal to 3x minus 3x is 0. And 28 minus 12 is going to give us what? 16. Right? So 2x is equal to 16. So that we divide both sides by what? 2. We divide both sides by 2. And you see that x here is going to be equal to 8. And the answer is B. Plain and simple, right? Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section.